Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Hanke and I'm a master's student in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Department of Ecosystem and Public Health. I am supervised by Dr. Susan Coots and my co-supervisor is Dr. Cindy Adams. My project looks at mobilizing local knowledge to inform co-management strategies for the Dolphin and Union caribou herd. But before we go into the particulars of my program, it's really important to have a theoretical understanding that's behind it. So first thing to consider is, what is knowledge? The majority of us here were trained and raised in a Eurocentric Western science culture. So we've learned in schools, institutions, universities, and we're taught that humans are the superior species. We're better, we're smarter than all other species. We believe that we're more powerful and we can dictate the outcomes that happens to other animals and the environment. However, from a Eurocentric way of knowing, everything is equal. Humans have the same amount of power and influence than the other animals, than the environment, and we're all on equal plane. We must work together to ensure a future that is good for all of us. In a concentric way of knowing, it's the equality of the relationships that's in focus, rather than the superiority of humans being in the center. Typically, an indigenous culture shares this concentric approach to the world. Mi'kmaq elder Albert Marshall coined the term etowoctomum, which means two-eyed seeing. In this approach, the goal is to use the strengths from Eurocentric ways of knowing together with the strengths of indigenous way of knowing to create a more holistic understanding. And by using these two systems together, we can accentuate what each knowledge system does really well while minimizing the limitations in each individual knowledge system. But when we use etowoctomum, it's very important to define the knowledge systems that we're working in. This prevents confusion and frustration between the different stakeholders. So in my research, I'm using local knowledge to refer to repeated observations in the environment, not necessarily attached to an indigenous knowledge, and scientific knowledge being all the knowledge held in Eurocentric culture, including physical science and social science. So this little guy in the corner, he's a Dolphin Union caribou, and these caribou, some are on Victoria Island, cross down to the mainland once the water freezes to winter on the mainland, and then they head back north right before the ice melts. And this herd is really important for the surrounding communities, including Kugluktuk, Cambridge Bay, Uluktuk, for cultural reasons and for subsistence. So these caribou, they provide bedding, clothing, and meat for the communities. Food being a really serious issue of having it available in Arctic communities. But we don't really know much about this herd. An explorer estimated, based on other explorers' estimations, that back in the 1900s there was around 100,000 caribou. But what we really know is that back then there were a lot of caribou. People say that the ground used to shake when they were migrating through. And then in 1920s, this caribou herd crashed. We don't know why, but it crashed so much that scientists believe the herd was extinct. And then miraculously in the 1970s, people started to see these caribou around again. And by 1990s, 2000s, there were a lot of caribou again. We only, from a Eurocentric perspective, started being able to accurately estimate how many caribou there were in the 1900s. So when the caribou come down to migrate to the mainland for the winter, they congregate along the southern shore of Victoria Island waiting for the ice to freeze. So that's when we go out and we count all the caribou, and then we can get a pretty accurate estimate of how many caribou there are. So before the 1990s, the bar graphs here, these are estimates of how many there are, or based off of a really small survey area that was conducted. They're not very accurate. The local knowledge is probably more accurate. But recently, with our surveys and the local knowledge reports, we're seeing that this herd is declining again, and we don't know why. We don't know what's going on. And in order to help protect these really important species, we have to start getting baselines of health figured out. We have to start knowing what's going on with the caribou now, so that in the future we can proactively manage, proactively protect them to survive, to help them survive. So before we start going into trying to figure out what health is of the Dolphin and Union caribou, we have to take a step back and figure out what is health. Historically, from a Eurocentric perspective, health was the absence of disease. And recently that's developed more to include other facets, such as not only looking at disease, but looking at stress, looking at body condition to get a more holistic understanding of what's going on. And it's interesting that our Eurocentric perspective of health is kind of developing into what the concentric version of health already is. So because animals are seen equal to humans, what is health is the same between humans and animals. So if you look at overall health of someone, you're looking at 4 aspects. You're looking at spiritual health, physical, mental, emotional health. And in order to be overall healthy, you have to have good health in all of these categories. Meanwhile, if we were to look back at the historic Eurocentric perspective of health, looking at just disease is a tiny part of physical health, which is a part of our overall health. So now we're becoming more holistic in our understanding. For my project, I'm working with the Kaguktuk Hunters and Trappers organization, which is the traditional authority for the community, and the Government of Nunavut Department of the Environment. So together, my project is supported by the territorial government and the traditional government to generate this representative account of what the local experts in Kaguktuk and partially Cambridge Bay know about the Dolphin Union caribou herd. And then by creating this piece, this account of local knowledge, it can then be used as a tool to promote the community's voice in management decisions and help to improve our understanding of what's going on with the Dolphin Union caribou. So my project has a few phases to it. First off, I have a set of historical interviews from 2003 that the Government of Nunavut had conducted, but never completed. I'm presently in Kaguktuk to conduct another set of interviews with individuals. And then around February 2019, I'll be up again to work with groups doing more participatory activities. And then each of these data collection sets will have a feedback session to them to involve the community in the analysis. So in 2003, the Government of Nunavut had conducted a series of interviews with local Dolphin and Union caribou experts from Kaguktuk and Cambridge Bay. So 15 people were interviewed in each community. This project was initiated to complement a collaring project that had started that year. And it was also being used to document and preserve traditional knowledge of the herd. However, the project was never completed. It was supposed to have 2 other communities involved, but they only got 2, Kaguktuk and Cambridge Bay, interviewed. The audio recordings from the interview did get transcribed, and that's as far as the government was able to go. So we were asked to take the data that they had collected and analyze and summarize what was found in 2003. So I've been working on this. I have all the transcripts thematically analyzed, and I'm currently working with someone in the community to get the maps digitized. But this has been really helpful to understand the overall the overall understanding of Dolphin Union Caribou health. And regardless of whatever the final product is that results from the data, it has really given me some good insight into the history of Dolphin Union local knowledge, and it's given me a chance to show the community that I'm committed to them, that I'm committed to completing the study that they had never seen the results from. I've also had the chance to troubleshoot some of my methods to help streamline things in the future and to collect better data from my interviews. And it's really given me a better understanding of not only what the Dolphin Union Caribou are, but what they mean to the community. So as I said, I'm currently in Kugluktuk to conduct individual interviews with local experts in town. My objective for this phase is to learn from the participants what they are seeing in the Dolphin Union Caribou. The participants themselves are being selected based off of recommendation by the Hunters and Trappers organization, and also by recommendation of the participants themselves. I'm going into these interviews with a guide and some tools to help facilitate discussion and ensure that I'm hitting the key points I want to ask about. And then through thematic and content analysis of the transcripts and digitization of the maps that we're creating, this phase will help me create a contemporary and collective understanding of how the Dolphin and Union Caribou herd is doing today in 2018. The information from these interviews will also help to inform my following group interviews that I'll be doing. And this is just one of the participants that I had recently interviewed, showed me a lot in that huge map back there. So once I have completed the individual interviews and got them all conducted and transcribed, I can then compare and contrast the analyses from 2003 and 2018 and get a deeper understanding of what the health is of the Dolphin Union Caribou, but also what the difference has been between those 15 years. And then afterwards, the focus groups in around February 2019, they'll be used to gather more detailed qualitative and quantitative information on Dolphin Union Caribou health from a veterinary medical and resource manager perspectives. So we'll be creating more quantifiable information using participatory activities like proportional piling and population curves, drawing graphs, drawing on maps, seasonal calendars, to create this information that can be used by resource users and transferring the knowledge held by the local experts into something that resource managers can easily use. Once, for each of the data sets, the results that come from them will be first and foremost discussed with the participants and with the community before anything else happens to them. This is really essential to ensuring that the study results have been produced ethically and that they accurately represent what the community was trying to say. So if I, coming from a completely different background, interpreted what they said incorrectly, they have that chance to tell me that this is wrong, and then I have to and then tell me how they actually meant it. So it gives them that moment, that time to provide me feedback and provide feedback into the analysis and get the community and the participants involved in the analysis process. It's also really important to making sure that the data stays grounded in the community and that we can then safeguard against any intercultural biases or conflicts that may just accidentally arise from this being a very intercultural project. So I'm also, while I'm in town, I'm working to help increase the community's capacity for science and for them to be able to do things when or if there aren't Southerners coming into town to help run them. One of the things I'm doing is training a community member on interview processes and also on the mapping software we're using, because it's a very complicated software, so that in the future, if she wanted, she could help lead a project like this and keep it more within the community and less reliant on people like me. I'm also working in the high school running science classes and social science classes and providing opportunities that the students wouldn't necessarily see. So in this picture, me and a colleague were up and training one of the teachers how to do most dissections, and then we ran through a most dissection with a bunch of kids, and it ended up great. And then down here, I'm working with an English class to get them thinking about how they think and opening that philosophical questioning of what creates a person to think a certain way, and then how can we expand our perspectives to include or be accepting of other people's perspectives. Another thing that I'm working on right now is there's a group of students who are trying to get a student newspaper up and running. So I'm helping them learn about different interviewing techniques, different things that they have to be aware of that affects an interview, like the clothes that you wear. And then helping them to hone their skills and have a successful student newspaper, successful interactions with the community. Overall, my project is helping to start dialogue about the applicability of qualitative research to wildlife management, a field that is historically run by physical sciences by a Eurocentric only perspective, and discussion about how these different knowledge systems work together, and questioning how we can best work between these systems to get a better understanding. By creating and raising the voice of these local experts, we're contributing to a shift in power within the system and facilitating more effective and informed co-management strategies to get the people who know about these caribou and care about these caribou to work better together to help protect them. So for the future of this herd, and to better understand them, we need to use all of our different ways of knowing together, because these issues are really complex, and just approaching it with one perspective isn't going to get the whole picture. We need to use the knowledge from the resource managers, the knowledge from scientific knowledge, and the Inuit and local knowledge to all put our heads together to figure out how to best protect these caribou. Thank you.